That's concerning.
Curry, way down top. Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Welcome back to another episode of On the Break. Tonight we have the Doc Rivers edition. For the first half of this show, I'm going to look like a genius, and for the second half of the show, I'm going to look like a freaking idiot, just like Doc Rivers did for that series. So, Josh in the studio here with Kyle Beats. How's it going, man?
What's up, dude? Glad to be back. Been way too long since we talked. A lot of crazy stuff has happened. This has been an insane playoff run. I love the trajectory with the episode though tonight because a lot of that's on Doc, and we'll get to it. But I definitely feel like not enough blame is probably going to go there. But I mean, shit. Last time we talked, we were in the middle of the first and second rounds. We haven't even talked about the game sevens that happened. So a lot to cover tonight, and I'm pretty excited on a couple of these series. And I think you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, definitely, dude. You got half of them right and half of them wrong, and I got half of them right, half of them wrong too. So we're both going to play up our big predictions that we got right and talk about how great we are, right?
What did I get wrong?
The Clippers.
Well, I guess that's true. Did you pick Denver?
No, I picked LA to win the championship. I didn't pick Denver, but I mean,
got you. Yeah, you're right. I did pick the Clippers as a hedge. That was an emotional hedge, though.
Okay,
but talk to me. Let's talk about your Thunder first, man. We got a lot to dive into, so let's just hop right into it.
I don't understand what coach in their right mind. So let's talk Game 7. We're down 2, I think, or 1 of the 2. We're taking the ball in side out, and we run. And I want you to remember, let's think about Houston's ultimate lineup. Houston is wing heavy, switchable wings 1 through 5. They don't run any big men. They don't run any super smalls because Russ can switch, Harden can switch. Like all those guys can switch up 1 through 4 whenever Harden and Russ are actually motivated and actually do want to play defense. Completely nothing but wings out there on the court. We decide that we're going to give the ball to the sophomore guard who's never been to the playoffs before. Actually, I take that back. He went last year. Who's never been in a Game 7 before, to take the ball in out of bounds over their biggest player and make the most important pass of his life up into his career on a Game 7 with 6 seconds left on the clock. And in order to get him to inbound the ball, we're going to have Steven Adams just set picks for our guards. He's going to set a pick for Chris Paul, and then he's going to turn around and set a pick for, I can't even remember the other guard that he set a pick for.
Dort?
I don't even know who it was, but it doesn't matter because all that the Rockets have to do, because they have 5 switchable rings out there, is just switch the freaking pick.
Right.
Like, people are mad because Donovan called this play and said, you should have just had Adams roll to the rim. Like all that was an easy backside roll, which is true. That's the most obvious thing. But that play call was horrendous from the beginning. Like, why would you ever put a sophomore guard in that position to inbound the ball in a Game 7? Like that's horrible coaching. Like you have to know, you have to give it to a vet or have somebody else passing it in. Also, you have to know screen's not going to matter with 6 seconds left because they'll just switch the screen and you're not going to have anybody go to the rim free. Like that was the worst out of bounds play call I may have ever seen ever in my life in such a big moment.
Situationally
speaking, it is the worst out of bounds play call I've ever seen. And Donovan deserved to be fired solely for that. Just for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. And the thing about putting it in Shea's hands, regardless of, if he is a sophomore or a vet, is that he's not your best player, and he wasn't playing that well in that series. And Chris Paul, has to be the guy, in my opinion, to take that shot or make that pass. And you look at it feels like I would say 2/3 of possessions now when it comes down to the end of the game, like it did in the Heat and Celtics game last night. Kemba didn't start dribbling until there was 9 seconds left, right? And it seems like guys are just ISOing and taking step back threes or really difficult shots. I'd rather Chris Paul take that really difficult shot than SGA give me a turnover. Or put it in a position.
He was throwing it in from out of bounds. So but I get what you're saying. They were trying to get it to Chris Paul, but it was just the wrong play call to have Steven Adams doing picks.
Because that ball was going to Lou Dort, right? So that's who was going to be
Yeah, I
taking
think
the
it ended
shot?
up so the play was designed for Chris Paul, but it
Right.
ended up going to Lou Dort, and they picked it off.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't want him taking the last shot of the game. I mean,
For
they
sure.
were leaving that dude wide open.
Yeah, for sure. And really, I don't even know. I probably should have I should have done a better job of thinking about what I would have done in that situation. But I was so pissed off that I was like, this is the stupidest play call. But you
So
can't.
it was fair for Donovan to get fired?
I mean, it was fair for him to get fired a couple of years ago.
Sure. This is more excusable than the last two.
Oh, for sure. And to be, I thought, okay, we have a bunch of young guys. Donovan has a history of making young guys great and just making them better. I thought that they fired him when it was Donovan's prime time. Like, I would have been okay with keeping him even after that stupid, horrendous play call and horrendous coaching job all around, solely because he's a player's coach. He's a young guy developer, and he can develop skills, and that's what the NBA that's the Thunder will need now, and they will need moving forward. He didn't need to be coaching Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and trying to get to the finals. That's not him. He's a young guy developer. That's what he did when he was in Florida in college, and now was the time for him to actually prove what he was worth, but they got rid of him. So, it's really hard to be a championship pedigree NBA coach because not a whole lot of people actually have that championship like mentality and can take players that make significantly more than them, have a significantly larger ego, and make them better and mold them into the player that they need them to be inside of a system, but also play outside of a system. We'll talk about that more with the Clippers. Doc Rivers is 100% a systems coach and nothing more. It's just darn near impossible. You have to have an outstanding coach. That doesn't mean that, and I'm guilty of it too in saying that. Why do you keep hiring these guys that lose? Why do we have such a horrible coaching carousel of a guy that comes in?
That's why you bring in a guy like Steve Nash.
Yeah, and that's because they're wanting to win a championship. And I think the Nets ownership is smart enough to say there's nobody on the coaching carousel that's a championship pedigree. If we were raising some other guys, we might hire a Tom Thibodeau because he might get some of their egos in check. Like maybe the best thing for Russell Westbrook when he was young would be to play under a Tom Thibodeau. We don't know.
Right.
Different coaches have different styles, and different coaches can do different things for you. And Donovan's just not a championship team, and they hired him to be a championship coach. And he's
going to get a job because but those guys are available for a reason, like the Thibodeaus and the or like D'Antoni's and Donovan's, because there's only a handful of maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 coaches in the league that really make that a huge difference and elevate a team.
Yeah, Donovan's a rebuild coach. Like if I'm entering a rebuild, I 100% want to go get Donovan because I know he's going to take care of my players. I know that he's not going to piss anybody off, and he's going to make my young guys better. Like if I was rebuilding, love Donovan. But he shouldn't have been put in the situation that he was put in originally, which is 1 year left on Kevin Durant's contract, come in and win a championship with these guys with 1 year. Like that doesn't happen. Even Phil Jackson didn't win his first championship in year one with Jordan and Pippen. Like it didn't happen, So Donovan was put in a bad situation from the beginning. But I think that with him getting fired, and if he goes to a rebuild, he could be a good coach. Brett Brown was a rebuild coach, not a championship coach. He could be that kind of guy.
I think that's well said. That being said, where's your optimism as a still an OKC fan? Can't be feeling that great about it. I mean, you got Chris Paul in the books for another year plus the option, which will probably pick up for 45 plus. Adams at 27 or whatever his number is not looking great. I mean, SGA had flashes of being really good this year. I think we're still both high on him, but he's not elevating to where it looks like he's going to be like a superstar or anything. I mean, what's the optimism level there? Is it not very much?
It's high. It's 9.5 out of 10.
Because of the draft picks?
Because of the draft picks. Because we somehow managed to trade Pack Bags P for 7 draft picks over the next 7 years.
Did you see that stat I sent you today that the Clippers traded more first-round draft picks than Paul George had field goals in the Game 7?
I think I had 4 people send me that stat. So
that's absurd.
I saw it multiple. That's insane, dude. I feel really good about it.
Okay.
What I have a concern about is the coach, and let's get more into this as we go on throughout the show, because if we've seen nothing else in this playoffs, we've seen that the coach matters. Like who you have coaching matters. They need to not hire a coach, and I don't think that they will hire a coach that comes in and tries to win a championship. I don't think that you hire D'Antoni. I don't think D'Antoni would take that job. I think that you need to go out and get a Billy Donovan. I wouldn't be mad if they hired Scott Brooks. Do you think you would ever hear that from me? Because we're not expecting to win over the next 2 to 3 years.
Sure.
You need to play. You need a coach that can do what?
Isn't Donovan your guy at that point? Isn't he the rebuild coach you just said he was?
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell 100% is the rebuild coach that I said he was. But they already
Billy Donovan.
Yeah, and they already said that they were parting ways.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you're going to be able to track like a big name coach, but who's available that's really a big name coach? I mean, it's not going to be whoever the hire is. You're probably not going to love it unless it's something really unique like the Steve Nash hire. But I agree. I think you guys are in a better place than a lot of fans or media may give you credit for because the roster's not great, but the roster will be solid in several years.
I would love to pull an assistant coach. I would love to pull dude, honestly, he won't take this job, but Ty Lue would be fantastic. Like, I don't think that Ty Lue is a championship coach. I think he was gifted a championship by LeBron James. I think that Ty Lue is a player's coach.
Yeah, for sure.
You need to go out and get a player's coach because you don't have a Russell Westbrook who you need to break. Like, you don't have somebody like that who you need to say, I'm going to sit your ass until you stop turning the ball over. You don't have anybody like that. I think all the guys that they have now are really humble and want to do right. All you need to do is go out and find a coach that is going to create an environment where those guys can make each other better.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
So I wouldn't mind Ty Lue. I wouldn't mind Scott Brooks. And dude, these are all coaches that I've historically not liked at all because they've been put in the wrong spot. I wouldn't mind Ty Lue.
But for the situation you're in, you think it's Scott a good
Brooks.
fit.
I would go after Bud too.
Oh, wow. Well, he might be there.
Yeah, exactly. Bud would be fantastic. He's a player's coach and he creates systems too. The best thing that you can do for a young player that comes in the NBA that has huge amounts of talent is teach them to work inside of a system. And regardless of whether that system is there whenever they turn into being championships or not, if you can teach them to be a part of a system and that they're greater as part of a system than they are by themselves, when they're young, like you get a LeBron James. You get those players that will do whatever it takes to win. And Bud, historically, is great at that. All we need to do is show these guys, give these guys a taste of winning in the regular season. That's all we need.
Yeah, and they got a little taste this year. So I think you're right for being optimistic, even though a lot of people would probably see it the other way. So Houston advances in that series. They win by 2. Let's go ahead and let's just talk about Houston and LA, and then we'll go over to the other side of the West. So Houston gets by. I think that should have been an indicator that they had a 2-point win in a game 7 where they barely got over 100 points, that this LA series wasn't going to go very well. Yeah. I was not optimistic with Houston's chances. I thought LA in 5 or 6. Come out game 1, and I start feeling a little bit more nervous because I thought they were going to be gassed in that game 1. I think they were just flying high on the energy and the emotions and made a lot of shots. LA played really bad, just like they played really bad in game 1 of the Portland series. And then they just took care of business from there. And, I mean, we can talk about Houston, we can talk about LA, that's fine. But I mean, Houston is at a point here where it's like, we got to decide what we're going to do. Right. Are they going to keep Daryl Morey as the GM? Are they going to try to keep doing the small ball? Are they going to actually get a big, even though they just got rid of Capella? You can't do anything with Westbrook, unfortunately. So it's like, do these guys still want to play together? I mean, not great body language and I would say team chemistry in that series. Even though I think Russ and Harden are probably still fine as friends, but I just don't know where you go. I think you're at a point where you got to decide, like, do we just blow this up and try something else? But we've been saying that for 2 or 3 years. It was more justifiable to keep it going, though, after you go to a Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals against, one of the greatest teams of all time. When you get bounced in the second round the way they got bounced, the way they lost some of those games, I think that tells you it's time to do something different.
Yeah, they got obliterated in some of those games. And let me address Houston before we go back and address the Lakers.
Right.
They went chips all in on Mike D'Antoni, and they let him do, because you cannot convince me that Daryl Morey said, "Hey, let's trade Clint Capella." What did happen was Mike D'Antoni said, I want small ball. Let's get rid of Clint Capella. And they said, okay, we're going to give you all your guys to go win a championship. And then Mike D'Antoni didn't get it done, and then he said, I'm leaving. Mike D'Antoni screwed that city and that franchise for the next 5 to 10 years, at least. Like, it's over. No, there's not another system that you can bring in. There's not another coach with another system unless you pull a Steve Kerr out of your ass. There's not another one that can win a championship with those guys. And to be fair, D'Antoni can't either. There's not another one that can create a system that even looks like it can win a championship with those guys. They don't have draft picks. They give them to OKC.
Yep.
They don't have any value on that team. Austin Rivers is the only valuable piece that they have on that team. Obviously, there's value in Harden, but that's still a supermax contract. Like, there's no parity value on that team. You're paying Russell Westbrook way too much. That's a completely unmovable piece for the next 3 years.
Unmovable contract.
Unmovable. Nobody else will take that, especially the way that he performed.
He shot so poorly. Like, I love Russ, but I'm just off of him right now. Like, his game is terrible right now.
Yeah.
His defense is lackadaisical at best. He's just out there jawing and bitching at people, and he's not hitting any jump shots. And, like, he still does some athletic stuff and gets to the rim, but he smokes a lot of the layups. It's just like when LeBron just swatted his shit to hell and back 4 or 5 times, where it's like he doesn't have that same pop, you know, when 35-year-old LeBron's chasing you down like that. That doesn't happen to peak Westbrook, right? So it's just when the athleticism's gone, the effort is definitely not where it needs to be, and that's part of his game. It's just, it's hard to watch, dude. Houston's one of the most unwatchable teams.
Yeah, and what's the peak for an old great point guard? The cerebral, coach other players around him person. And I haven't seen any of that from Russell Westbrook. He hasn't been cerebral. He hasn't been making other players better around them. And I've said this since we've been on this show for years, that Westbrook doesn't make players around them better. He inflates their stats. He doesn't look for
Which can be easily misconstrued. Like, you can easily get those two things confused.
Right, and let me explain that. He doesn't look for rhythms. He doesn't ever defer to people or say, you need to be high, you need to be great, you need to be great right now. What he does is he creates himself and then dumps it to somebody else and they get a dunk. Some people will say he's making players better around him because he's averaging 10 assists a game. But really, he's just inflating their stats. He's just making them score better. He's not making them better. He's just allowing them to be able to score. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. And I mean, you know, the Rockets got some guys. Like, I like Covington. I like Tucker. I think they're both really good defensive players. Covington was fantastic in this series and in these playoffs. And I think him and PJ Tucker and House have some dog in them. But at the end of the day, you're still going to feed off your leader's energy. And Harden and Westbrook don't have, you could call it killer instinct, but it's not even killer instinct. It's like, they're not 110% in it. Like, regardless of the result, Giannis, Kawhi, LeBron, they're not in it like those guys are. They don't play with that tenacity. Westbrook typically does, but he did not in this series, and his energy was terrible. He's arguing with fucking Rondo's brother and just not giving a shit on defense and, you know, walking to the bench, kind of slump shoulders. He makes one shot, and then he starts talking all this shit, and it's like, I mean, it's just so dysfunctional. I'm so over it. And I've been more supportive of Houston than Justin, and maybe even more so than you. But it's just, you got to blow it up at this point. But I don't know if you really can blow it up unless you can trade Harden. Like, that's obviously a movable contract. But I don't think you do that, because if you still want to sell tickets and, you know, be relevant, and you're still going to make the playoffs with those two.
Yeah, I don't know what could happen, because you're exactly right. If you make the playoffs, that's millions upon millions of dollars more revenue than if you win 30 games, regardless of whether you're tanking or not. Even if you make the second or are out in the first round of the playoffs. That's why OKC originally got rid of Harden, is because they said, we're a small market team. We just want to stay relevant. We'll keep these two guys and not win any championships and just continue to print money. But I digress. That was me being salty again. But I don't know. You trade Harden, maybe get a young, promising guy and a bad contract, eat the bad contract, and then you sit through 2 more years.
Picks.
Yeah, and then a couple picks, right? And then you sit through 2 more years of Westbrook's contract. In a third year, you waive and stretch him, where you say, we're going to waive this guy and we're taking his last year of his pay and we're stretching it over 3 years. Or, depending upon where you're at, you might just eat the contract for that 1 year. But ultimately, that's just a contract that you have to eat. Without Mike D'Antoni there, I think that you have to go into complete rebuild.
Yeah, I agree. And you just can't. outshoot teams in the playoffs unless you're going to shoot an astronomical rate. Like they made 22 threes in game 2. 22 for 52. That's over 41%. That's good. They lost by 8. And the Lakers only made 12 threes, right? It's just like you have to be able to do a little bit more. You have to be able to get stops and have more creative of an offense because, their field goal percentage numbers weren't terrible. It's just it was so predictable in crucial moments that you're just not able to get buckets as easily as, a LeBron drive and kick or AD pick and roll or just AD post ISO. Like that's you have more variety there. So I don't know what you do. I don't think they move hard at all. I mean, you can sign a big and go into like crazy super luxury tax, but I don't know. I mean, are there any marquee bigs really free agents this year? Not really. So it's going to be tough. When I saw the Lakers that series, I feel pretty confident in. If they were playing the Clippers, I don't know if I'd feel as confident, but I think I've seen enough from AD now to be like, okay, he's locked in. I can trust him to get me, 30 5 out of 7 games, and I can trust him to not be scared to take the shot. LeBron is playing, ultimately close to his peak probably. Like he's playing great defense, which is surprising when he wants to. Obviously reading the court well, but I think guys are starting to settle in a little bit and buy in. So I think it's going to obviously be Kuz. It's going to be KCP. It's going to be Danny Green. I think those are probably the 3 guys that are going to need to step up the most if they want to win a championship. In this Clippers series coming, or in this Nuggets series coming up, though, there's going to be more Dwight involved with Jokic on there. But he'll get a healthy servant of AD, which is going to be more challenging than what he faced. But I don't know. What do you see out of the Lakers? I feel pretty good. Their 3-point shooting has been really, really bad for the most part. They had a couple good games in that Houston series, but I feel like the team's just settling in a little bit more, and they have some swagger and some confidence, but they haven't really been punched in the mouth yet. A couple game 1 losses, but that's it.
Agreed. And let me say before I go to that, if you don't mind, let me say one more thing about the Rockets.
Absolutely.
If the Rockets couldn't win this year, we've seen them 3 years in a row try to outshoot people because they looked at what the Warriors were doing and said, we can do that. As a matter of fact, we can build a team to do that. Right. And 3 years in a row, they've lost on that. If they didn't win this year, which they didn't, never, ever going to happen. Let me tell you why. I said from the moment that they talked about the bubble and they showed us the courts that people will shoot the lights out in those courts because it's different. In the bubble, Utah averaged an offensive rating of 131. Utah, bottom 15 team, averaged what would have been a record all time for offensive rating.
And missing one of their best offensive players.
Missing one of their best offensive players, too. Effective field goal percentage in the bubble is at 47%. Last year was at 42% in the playoffs. The year before that it was at 40. The year before that it was at 44, 40, 40.
Okay, so about 7% higher average. Yeah, so at least 5% over average, which is a big deal.
Right. Unguarded shots in the bubble are at 60%. Catch and shoot are at 55%. And guarded shots, bro, are at 50%. Last year, those numbers were 53, 50, 44. Year before that, 59, 54, 47. Like, if you didn't do it this year, shooting is not the way to go. Like, so in this 3-point revolution, the Houston Rockets got lost inside of the 3-point revolution. They tried to be too progressive. And Justin has said this before. They've gotten to the point where they're boring. I think Justin's subconscious was showing him something that you and I maybe did not see. But it wasn't just that they were boring. It's that the system doesn't work in the playoffs. If it didn't work this year, you can't over-advance it. Like, here's what happened. The Houston Rockets saw Tesla go up 1,000% in a year, and then they jumped on the high and then watched it go down 40%. Right. Like they said, we've watched what the Warriors are going to do. We're going to go all in on this and go all in on their game style. It didn't work for them because they didn't have a top 10 or top 15 all-time player in Steph Curry, another top 15 all-time player in Kevin Durant, maybe the best D&3 guy we've ever seen in our lives in Klay Thompson. Like, they just don't have the guys. And then also one of the 2-time defensive player of the year in Draymond Green. But they thought that they could do it better than those guys. And it just didn't happen. So I say all that to say, don't ride the wave too far, which is what Houston did. They rode that wave much further than they needed to, and they're going to be dogs for the next 5 to 10 years because of it.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, in this NBA, you need shooters, you need 3-point specialists, you need D&3 guys, but you don't have to load up your whole team with 6-6 versions of that, right? So
Right.
I think that's a learned lesson, that you don't want to go too far away from the roots of what makes you a good team or a championship caliber team. So talk to me about what you're seeing out of these Lakers, though.
I mean, they're still my favorites to win it. I think, at the beginning of the year, I said Lakers Bucks finals, Lakers winning it. Nothing has changed except for the Bucks in the finals for me. I can't. So I've also said this for 2 rounds in a row, but I don't see the Nuggets winning. I can't see it. I think that the Nuggets will
A game or the series?
the series. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that they might pick up 1 or I think that they might pick up 2. I can't imagine them winning 3. The Nuggets outcoached the Clippers. I'll get back to that later. But the Lakers have Anthony Davis. You're not going to have to double Jokic with Anthony Davis.
Exactly.
As long as
they were doubling every time. We still need to talk about Denver, so I want to dive into that. But yeah, you're not going to double Jokic because AD can handle him one-on-one.
Also, so can Dwight Howard and so can JaVale McGee.
Yep.
Can all do significantly better on Jokic than any of those guys. You're exactly right. We didn't see Dwight Howard at all this last series because Frank Vogel is a good coach and he actually makes adjustments. Look at what's happened in this NBA playoffs. The teams that don't make adjustments had the highest amount of talent. The teams that don't make adjustments, the Milwaukee Bucks, arguably the most star power in the Eastern Conference. The Clippers, the second most star power, most talent top to bottom in the entire league. Who's my other one?
Clippers, Bucks, Lakers.
Yeah, mine just went blank. But those are my two big ones. They lost because their coaches absolutely refused to. Oh, Rockets. Sorry, Rockets. D'Antoni never made adjustments either.
Pick your poison. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean Bud is the king of that to me. But go ahead.
Yeah. But so Vogel makes adjustments, and that for me is 100% going to be the difference between why Denver won't be able to outcoach the Lakers. We may even see a couple of what we're seeing with the Heat, where Spoelstra makes an adjustment, and then Brad Stevens makes an adjustment, and then Spoelstra makes an adjustment, and we're changing the way that we go at stuff after timeouts. Like we might see that, and those to me are exciting. Like whenever you get to see 2 marquee coaches go up against each other, 2 of the best coaches in the league go up against each other, and they're throwing out different looks every single time down the court, like that excites me. And we may see that between Vogel and Malone, because dude, I think that Malone is a marquee coach at this point.
Yeah, I was kind of shitting on Malone a few episodes back, and I think I'm gonna have to eat some crow there. But I think Jokic passed there. Just his passing is what won that series, and Jamal just going ape shit in the second quarter last night and at the end of the game. I mean, that dude makes some of the most difficult shots in the NBA.
Jokic?
It blows my fucking mind every time that I remember he is 22 years old, not 25. He's 22.
Let's play a game. Mitchell, Booker, and Murray. Who are you taking?
Starting a franchise or adding them to a current roster?
Yes.
Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, because I think his defensive ability is significantly higher than both, and his effort is better than both. He's a better passer. He's obviously the worst shooter, maybe worst scorer, but it's still a good scorer. Those are 2 of the best young scorers in the league. I think I would have Murray second though.
If I would too, dude, and I'm okay with the Mitchell pick. I probably would take Murray more. I've liked of those 3 guys. They've always been pseudo comparable in my mind, and I've always said I don't know why, but I like Murray the most, even when he was underperforming. But I like Murray the most now. But if you would have come to me at the beginning of this year and said at the end of this year, Murray and Mitchell will be better than Booker, and Booker won't even be the same conversation of them, I would have thought you were crazy. But I think that's where we're at, dude. Because
he's in that conversation because he's such a better scorer. I mean, dude dropped 71 in a game. He averaged more points.
I don't think
he's doing it on an irrelevant team. I mean, he's averaged more points every season, like season, if you take his first season, Jamal's first season, second season, he's averaged more. So his career average is significantly higher. He's had so many bigger games. He's never done it in the playoffs, which Jamal has now, but Jamal has shit the bed a lot. So my defense for my Mitchell pick, aside from everything I said about his skill set, is that his rookie year he beat OKC in the playoffs. Like that dude's a gamer. He scored 50 twice.
Yeah, this in the first round. Yeah.
So I mean,
Murray.
Right, but Murray shit the bed, and Mitchell's never has. Like Mitchell's performed in all of the playoff games he's been in for the most part. He's had a couple of off ones, but if you look at their playoff career numbers, significantly better for Mitchell.
Yeah, and that's fair. Like this was. I'm not going to say that
it's coming out party.
Previously,
but let's not Siakam him here, where we said this last year, and then he comes out firing this year, and I'm like, this is a top 10 guy, and now I'm like, is he a top 30 guy? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. We can't really do much about that right now, but all we can do is see what we've seen previously, what we see now, and then try and project this future. We don't know, but what I mean is, and I said this like previously. I was thinking I like Murray, even though I know that he's not as good as either of those guys right now, but I like him the most. And I don't know why, dude. I was talking to my buddy about this today. I have no idea why. Maybe it was just because I watched him more and I felt more comfortable with him. Maybe it was the Mears effect, but I would still take Murray over both those guys right now because, dude, like he did it against Utah, who has Mitchell on him, who's a significantly better defender than Murray is. They switched to Royce as well, and then he was also being guarded by Connolly. Dropped 50 points on them twice. Like those are not slouch defenders. And then he just did it to Kawhi, Pat Bev, playoff P. He just did it to them too. Like,
yeah, man. I don't know who you put on him for the Lakers. Thinking about that out loud, maybe KCP. It's probably the best physical matchup for him.
I mean, I would put LeBron on him.
Yeah, you got to get some LeBron, but God, that's gonna wear LeBron the fuck out.
It will. And
his step backs, like you can't do much there. I mean, like
can't do anything.
He step backs at such a difficult speed. It's very quick, and his feet are very low off the ground, so it's very quick. But it's also a lot of distance. It's like Luka Harden level distance, but he can do it backwards and to the side and at a 45-degree angle. That dude can do it at any angle, which makes it insane because he can be dribbling and hit a step back at like a 70-degree angle. It's just awkward where most guys have to be not driving. They can be dribbling but not driving. Excuse me. I'm saying he can drive and take an awkward angle and take a weird fadeaway where most guys, their step back, even Luka or Harden, is going to be doing a crossover, isolation, standstill dribble, and then stepping back pretty much directly backwards. And it's what Murray's doing is highly skilled. It is, I dare to say it, at least in the arena, not quite, but it's in the arena of Steph Curry.
Yeah, dude, I would agree with that. And we saw that last night on that 1-3 that he shot it looked like it didn't even touch net, dude. It had so much arc on it. When he released it, he stepped it was a step back to the right, which means that he's not only taking a step back to the left, you just shoot over your shoulder, right? If you take a step back to the right, you have to twist your entire body and loft it up over. The defender was all over him, and it went up and almost hit the rafters and just didn't even hit net. When he released it, I was like, what a stupid shot. And he drilled it, bro. And the other thing about him is he can finish at the rim. He's a slithery finisher. He's not an above the rim player. He's a slithery finisher. He has floaters, as good of a floater game in the NBA as anybody that I've seen. Like, he has floaters from every angle, from everywhere, all over the place. He has a pull-up mid-range game, which is very rare these days. He's one of the best scorers in the NBA if he continues on what he's doing in the playoffs. Like, playoff Murray, maybe the best scorer in the NBA.
Not true.
Am I crazy to say that? Not
yeah,
true.
You're crazy to say that. But here's the thing. He got 17
put over playoff
points.
Murray? Who has scored better in the playoffs than him?
I take Donovan Mitchell over him in the playoffs. Just go right back to my answer.
Yeah,
I mean, he was averaging
right now.
He was averaging more points. That's not because he's on a worse team. He doesn't have Nikola Jokic. If you switch them, it's a different conversation. I think Donovan Mitchell, to end that conversation, has a better chance of being an MVP one day. I guess that would be my argument. I do think that Murray's in the conversation for playoffs right now, but he scored 17 in Game 7 of Denver-Utah, which we don't even need to talk about that game. It was 80-78. It was fucking terrible. It was almost unwatchable. I'm glad Denver got through it, though, because I thought they were the better team, and I wanted to see them face the Clippers because I knew Jokic would be an issue at 7 feet because they don't – Zubac and Trez isn't going to get it done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say, because when I say who's the best playoff scorer in the NBA, right, I look at it and say, who can I trust in a 7-game series to get me 25 7 times? That's not Jamal Murray.
Who is left in the NBA that you can say that about? Like LeBron.
That's left in these 4 games. Yeah, I would say LeBron and AD. I can trust AD to give me 25 in every game.
I trust Murray to do it. I would put Murray on that list.
But he hasn't. He's scored under 25 like 4 times this playoffs. Like, you can't be that up and down.
You're not talking about average. You're talking about this like every single.
I'm talking about I need 25 every night because you're not gonna win on average, right? Harden gets the average, but he was terrible in some of those games. Like that, there was game 4 of that Lakers series. He was like 2 for 12 with 3 minutes left in the fourth. Like, I can't be having shit like that. Like, I need to know this guy's gonna give me 25, and Murray's not there yet. Jokic isn't either, but he does so much else for his team and creates enough offense with his passing.
That's what I will say. If you told me to choose between Jokic and Murray, it would be Jokic.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And can we transition to the Clippers? Because I think you just segued it pretty well.
Yeah, I'm done with that 80-78 game. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is the difference. And I am loving this because we've said from the very beginning, I specifically have said, I don't trust this Clippers team because there's 2 question marks, and these 2 question marks are big. Who's going to protect the rim? And who's going to pass for them? And
that's look at 2 things they couldn't do in the fourth quarter.
Look at what happened for the last 3 games. Is Kawhi had 2 points in the second half. I don't even know what Paul George had. Kawhi went 1 for 11 in the second half.
He had 1 off the backboard shot. I know that.
Yeah, that was ugly. But the reason why that happened is because all they have is a system. And once a team figures out your system and you don't have playmakers that can play outside your system, it's over. They just put their best defenders on you, and they wait for that system to happen, and then they jump passing lanes. That one pass that Kawhi was at the top of the key, and he looked up, Jokic knew exactly where it goes. Dude, Jokic isn't even a good defender. All he had to do was stick his arms up, and he took it from him, and they went and put the nail in the coffin on the other end. It's because Mike Malone figured out their system over a period of 7 games, and they didn't have anybody that can play outside that system and create for other people.
Okay, going to be a different animal here coming up, but yeah. So I think we both hit that really early in the season that, hey, there's not a true creator here. Paul George is an ISO player for the most part. Kawhi got better this year for sure. Like, he was making guys better. He had some good passes, but that's not his game ultimately. That's not who he's going to, be in the fourth quarter of a game 7. And I'm not going to kill Kawhi too much here. I wanted to last night. I was just shitting on everybody that loves Kawhi and hates LeBron, because LeBron would have been crucified for that performance. He would have never lived it down. Kawhi's just not going to take that level of criticism. We don't hold him to the same standard, even though if he's considered the best player in the world, we should. That being said, a lot more of this is on Paul, because Kawhi was pretty good throughout that whole series. He had 13 in game 5, fourth quarter. He had 9 in the fourth quarter of game 6. Shots didn't fall last night. I think he was like 6 for 23 from the field or something like that. I mean, it was ugly. Shots didn't fall. He didn't get the calls he wanted in the fourth quarter. His hands were going up after every shot. But yeah, nobody created. Yeah, which he doesn't do, right? But he was frustrated. I mean, him and Paul George, their percentages last night were just atrocious. And you're going to lose games when that happens. But if they would have had a true point guard to facilitate or create, I think it would have made things a little bit easier, because they would have got some better shots, because they were not getting quality shots at the end of that game. And for some reason, it's just stuck in my head. It felt like they had 76 points forever. Like, I felt like they were on that number for like 5 minutes straight. They were struggling to hit a field goal.
They didn't score until 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The entire team didn't.
That's wild, man. So, I mean, we could talk about the series where, at 3-1, I was out of the lake house, and I'm telling myself there's no way the Clippers lose this series. Like, I would have bet my life savings on that when it was 3-1 that the Clippers would finish that series.
I would have too. And I've never once said I thought that the Clippers were anywhere close to a favorite. Like, I thought it was Lakers Bucks all year long, and then probably Clippers 3. But I would have too, dude. Like, they looked good in those first 4 games, even though they lost one. They looked good.
They did look lackadaisical
more than even Paul George. This is on Doc.
Doc should take the most blame. It should be Doc, Paul, and then Kawhi.
Yeah.
And maybe Lou, man. Lou was very. You can't expect too much out of a role player, but he was so just. He didn't look like he wanted to take those shots in the fourth quarter of any of those games.
I think what happened is they voted to stop the playoffs, and they were like, "We'll stop it for ourselves just by losing 4 in a row." But sorry, you can't. So you're exactly right. The whole team looked lackadaisical for the last 4 games. They didn't really change any game plans. They just kept losing on the same game plan until Game 7, and then they said, "Okay, we're gonna double Jokic." And he had 4 assists in the first quarter.
Yep.
And they didn't change, dude. Doc said, go ahead. Keep doubling the greatest passing big of all time.
Yeah, and me and you could make a cut there and get a good look.
Dude, for real. And me and you could both say, stop doubling fucking Jokic. Like, let him score on us, dude. He's not going to drop 50 on us. It's Jokic, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good scorer, but he's not a great scorer. Like, I'll let him take post shots over Zubac all day. I'm making
Jokic beat me on the scoring side if I can. And I think that's what will happen with the Lakers. You just stick Anthony Davis. They have 3 big bodies that are big, athletic, good defensive bodies.
JaVale's got a sprained ankle, though, so he's not
Jokic
100 or even ready to go, I don't think.
JaVale? That's still better than a 100% Montrezl Harrell on Jokic. But I
think AD and Dwight is enough. And quite frankly, if you really want to, you can put LeBron on him.
Oh yeah, and
he's giving up 3 inches, but
they were after the first 4 games. I don't know why, but they stopped putting Kawhi on Jokic. I wonder if Kawhi got tired, dude.
He probably got tired of getting his body banged like that by such a big guy, but he's strong enough to do it, dude. Kawhi is greatly underrated. On his strength.
Yeah, on his strength for sure. The dude's 26 years old, 6 years younger than LeBron. And is
Jokic or Kawhi?
Do what? Kawhi.
Jokic? He's 26?
Yeah, I think he's
Kawhi's got to be older than that. I think he's got to be 28, 29. But he's in his prime. Is that
29 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I did my math wrong. He's 6 years younger than LeBron at 29 years old. Okay. And he's sitting out 30 games a season.
Not great.
And then saying, I can't guard this guy to win a series 7 games because I'm sick of them beating on me. It's not like you're the only scorer on that team. If anything, that entire team from top to bottom can score. Like, your one job there, Kawhi, is to stop Jokic. That should have been your one job throughout the entire series. And there is a 0% chance that if you put LeBron in that situation and said, you can't score, you can't do anything else, we just need you to stop Jokic, that he wouldn't take that the entire series long.
Yeah, I agree.
We're looking at a player here who's never won a regular season MVP because he sits out too much. He won 2 finals MVPs, one of which was gifted to him because the Spurs was a significantly better team and he happened to guard LeBron. And then the other one was, dude, that Raptors team took probably the Eastern Conference Finals to 7 games and they played them tough, dude. And that's with Siakam shitting the bed. Like, that was a good Raptors team. I would dare say that team without Kawhi on it is significantly better than the Clippers without Kawhi on it. He got a Finals MVP on that team because he's the best player on that team. But dude, that was a fantastic team, and Nick Nurse is 1,000 times the coach that Doc Rivers is as well. I just don't get and you had Kawhi in your top 30. You had him high in your top 30.
He is there though.
I don't think he is.
He might be the best 2-way player of all time. That's my argument.
No way.
Behind Jordan.
There's 0% chance. If you say he's the best on-ball defender and the best scorer combined, that's fine. But he's not the best 2-way player. 2-way for me.
He's the best on-ball defender and shooter, probably. Clay's close because he's a better shooter, but Kawhi's a damn good shooter.
He is.
Like, his mid-range game is nice.
But what happened yesterday, though?
I don't know how I'm in a position where I'm defending Kawhi now.
Right. Look at what happened yesterday. It was because of your horrible top 30 team. I'm just joking.
You had him in your top 30 too.
I didn't put Shaq in my top 10.
You had Kawhi in there.
Did I have Kawhi in my top 30?
Yeah, you did. But I had him at 21. I had him the highest.
Yeah, you definitely had him the highest. I might have had him at 29 or something, which I'm dropping him out. But And like we can say this is premature after one
So
loss.
John Stockton's a better player than Kawhi Leonard.
I did have him as higher, and he was a better player, and he is a better player than Kawhi Leonard. But look at what Kawhi did last night when the ball wasn't dropping for him. And then go back and look at Game 6 of the 2009 Finals, and look what Kobe did when the ball wasn't dropping for him. He had 19 boards. And they still won that
you're
game.
Preaching to the choir here, dude. Like last night told me LeBron James is the best player in the world.
Right. When Kawhi can't score, it's over. Which doesn't happen often, to be fair, but he doesn't make the people around him better. Like, you can increase your assists all day long, but he doesn't make the players around him any better. Right. He happened to be on two teams that won finals championships because he had the greatest, one of the two greatest teammates of all time between Tim Duncan and Steph Curry. He had Tim Duncan on his team, as well as two other Hall of Famers, and he was the young up-and-comer that guarded LeBron, and he played out of his mind in that series. He did a good job. LeBron obliterated him. He got a finals MVP for it. It should have been Tim Duncan. And then he went to another team that has the best pseudo-weird superstar role player in the league in Kyle Lowry, who does everything, who leads, dude, a point guard leads the league in charges. Point guards aren't supposed to be helping underneath the rim, bro. Like,
Kyle Lowry flops a lot, though. Don't get me started on him.
He's a fantastic defender. And plus they were super long throughout that. Like that team is just stacked. They just needed one scorer. And so what I mean is, all Kawhi had to do was go in and score. He didn't even have to play defense if he didn't want to. All he had to do was go in and score. In this situation, the Clippers, where he had to do more than score, he couldn't score, and they lost. And they lost 3 in a row, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the unbelievable thing is I just didn't think that team was going to get beat 3 times in a row by anybody, including the Lakers. Yeah. So I thought it was interesting in the post-game interviews that they talked about, it wasn't championship or bust for us this year. Like, really? I mean, I would have assumed it was championship or bust when you go out and recruit each other. And I mean, it's Kawhi Leonard, it's Paul George. This team made the playoffs already last year without these two guys. How is that not championship or bust?
That's
a convenient thing to say.
It was
exactly.
A blatant lie. Yeah.
That's trash.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So Nuggets Lakers. I just real quickly want to give you odds with what we have for them to win the finals. Lakers -200 to win the finals. Nuggets +900. They have the worst odds. Do you see the Nuggets winning 2 games?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I predict it? No. Do I see it? Sure. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be shocked. I would be surprised, not shocked, if the Nuggets won this series. Not because
what's more likely? Lakers sweep or Nuggets win?
Nuggets win.
Wow. Okay.
Not because I think they're the better team, but I think they're the hotter team.
Yeah, that scares me too. But I think when push comes to shove, like LeBron and AD duo over Jokic and Murray. So I'm gonna go Lakers in 6 on that. JaVale is going to be ready to go for the series. So you got 3 bodies, 4 really to throw at. You can even throw Markieff at him. You got a lot of bodies. You got big dudes on the Lakers. So I feel good about the Jokic not having to double him to allow. He's still going to pass great, right? But let's let him beat us scoring. More worried about the Jamal Murray matchup. But I do think the Nuggets have played terrific transition defense in the last few games against the Clippers. I think it's going to be an issue against the Lakers when LeBron's coming downhill. Because who are you coming at him with? Torrey Craig or, Gary Harris? Like, no way. Like, you got to put Paul Millsap's probably too slow at this point in his career.
What I would consider doing if I was Vogel is I would roll out Caruso, I would start Caruso and play him the entire first quarter and say, you don't let Murray get a bucket.
Yeah, it's got to be Caruso or KCP. That's the best. That's the most logical matchup. Who does the Nuggets have to guard LeBron James though? I mean, or at least be a formidable matchup. It's tough. It's not a great list.
There's nobody. I mean, and the thing with LeBron is you can't double him. If the Heat and
the Lakers play, like you got Jimmy, you got Iggy, you got Bam, you got different dudes you can try at LeBron.
Right. And the thing with LeBron is you can't double him because he'll just do what Jokic did to you.
Right. But the scarier thing is when you don't double him, it's easier for him to get his than Jokic, especially, dude, when LeBron's hitting step back threes and shit. Like that's usually a game they win. When LeBron hits, I want to see the stat on that. When LeBron hits more than one step back three, what's his team's winning percentage?
That'd be a crazy stat, dude. That would be
it's high.
That'd be some advanced stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see Lakers in 6. I think it'll be. Too. I wouldn't be surprised if Denver wins game 1. The Lakers have kind of been giving away these first games, not intentionally, just because I think it takes them a little while to figure it out. But Vogel and LeBron's mind come together after game 1 and can kind of figure out, okay, this is what the team's trying to do. But Mike Malone's probably going to make better adjustments than their previous matchups.
Anthony Davis has been horrendous in game 1s. Both game 1s, he's absolutely. I think he scored lower than 15 points in both game 1s. I'm thinking like 5 shots between the two of them.
After I just said I trust him to give me 25 a night.
Yeah. But I texted it to you guys or maybe somebody else, but I didn't get to talk about it on the show. I said he won't be able to do this against the Clippers. I think that he could do it against the Nuggets and get away with it.
Okay.
But he won't be able. If a super hot Boston Celtics or a super hot Miami Heat go and make it to the finals, he won't be able to do it against them. He can't continue to just throw away game 1s.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what's your prediction?
Lakers in 6. I'll take that too.
Okay. Let's transition to the East. Last time we spoke, we were at 2-0 in the Raptor series. You were feeling a little bit nervous. They tie it up 2-2. Probably feeling pretty good at that point that you're going to win 2 out of the next 3, I would assume. Because I know you've been backing this Toronto team where J-Mac and I felt pretty good about the Celtics' chances. And a good game 7. I think we learned a lot about Tatum in this series. I think he's their guy over Kemba at this point, for better or worse. But, I mean, game 7, just tough last possession, quite frankly, for Van Fleet. Neither him or Lowry shot well or scored well. None of their players really shot that well that entire series. Ibaka did. He didn't get a lot of playing time, though. It was a weird series for Toronto. And I think the better team won at the end of the day. And this is, a team – they had Hayward. They're certainly the better team.
Yeah, you're right. That a lot of what we saw was scoring by committee and just clamps on defense. And to be honest with you, Lowry was fantastic. Lowry was unbelievable.
He the shit out of Kemba.
Yeah,
which we knew that was going to be a problem, but I knew that those guys were going to shoot bad percentages with Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown in the mix.
You called that on Van Vliet for sure, and I thought I wasn't as convinced. I was a little bit concerned, but you were exactly right. This is going to sound crazy. I still think Toronto's the better team, but Siakam shit the bed.
Siakam shit the bed, but maybe we're just buying too much Siakam stock. Here's the thing.
I think that's true.
Here's the thing. With Hayward in there, there's no chance they're a better team.
That's true. And if we would have gotten regular season Siakam, they would have won in 6. So, yeah, I feel you. With Hayward in there, there's no way that they're the better team.
Right.
Regular season Siakam, they are far and away the better team. But they both had chances to win it, and Boston just did it. Like, Tatum was unbelievable, dude. And I'm buying on Tatum.
Yeah, his skill set is elite.
Yeah.
His athleticism, as we discussed earlier, is good. It's fine. It's not elite. But his skill set, his coordination at his length is incredible.
Yeah. Definitely.
And he can score at all 3 levels. Like, he's got a mid-range game. He's a good enough 3-point shooter, and he can get to the basket unless Bam happens to be in the way. He can get to the basket. Do
you think that they'll be able to beat Miami?
I do, and we'll get there. I do. I think that was a crucial loss, though. But in that series, I really I've been buying a lot of Tatum stock, but that was just like where you're just like, I'm never selling this thing until I retire. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, for sure.
It's just so good and so pure.
How do you come around to my comparison, my NBA player comparison?
Yeah, so your player comp for him is Luka, which I think is crazy. You convinced me a little bit more on it. I just think that he's a better natural scorer, and I think Luka's a better passer. I think he's poor man's KD, which I don't think you're off that take either. I think he's 85% of KD, which is great.
Can we mix them together and say that he's half KD, half Luka?
Sure.
So let me tell why I think that he's a lot
I don't like
Luka.
player comps when the body types don't match, though. I have an issue with that.
Whatever, you're all about just skin color. He's not Steve Nash comparing to Luka and stuff.
Mix
Dude, it always cracks me up
Luka
whenever you
and
have
KD.
you always have it. God dang it. It always cracks me up whenever you have a prospect coming out of college. It's a white prospect, and they'll go back and they'll be like, NBA player comp like Steve Novak, and it'll be like nobody compare. He'll be an athletic dude, like they'll compare Caruso to Steve Nash or something. Like,
Yeah,
they don't play anything alike. They just have to be the same color.
right.
But for me, the reason why I like Luka is they're both. Tatum is not as athletic as I think that we thought he was whenever he dunked on LeBron. But if you go back and look at that, he had a runway. It wasn't like he was getting up in the middle of traffic to go and yam on LeBron. He had a runway, and it was a running like up, and LeBron was turning around and trying to get up with him. It wasn't.
He's 6'9" with a 7'2" wingspan.
Yeah, and but you don't see him. He doesn't play above the rim though.
His vertical is 32.5 inches. That's literally what mine is. Like, that's not a great vertical. He's just 6'9" with a 7'2" wingspan, which I'm
you're
not.
Throwing around your 32-inch vertical, whatever, Kyle. But
that's downplaying a little bit. I'm trying to be nice.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know that you're walking around with a 40. He's just not. He doesn't play above the rim. Neither does Luka. They're both extremely cagey and extremely crafty. They finish not below the rim, but at the rim, and they also like Tatum's a better shooter. Tatum is also seeing and making reads, especially this last series, that Luka makes significantly faster, but he's making the reads that are like, okay, I see that this guy's open, but then to the right, he sees somebody else cheating on. He's making multiple rotation reads and getting it to the right player, which I can see Tatum even averaging throughout his career. Not throughout his career, but eventually 1 year averaging 8 assists a game because he's making the right reads to be able to do that.
Getting better. Yeah.
His playmaking significantly better, and that's something that KD does not have. KD cannot make more than one read, and I completely attribute that to him playing in Scott Brooks' system for the first 8 years of his career. But
hey, that might change with Steve Nash.
Do what?
It might change into Steve Nash, though.
Yeah, that's
you might
true.
be able to get that out of him.
God, that's scary, dude.
I do think. It's Jason Tatum's team at this point. I think Jalen is such a great number 2 because I would consider him the number 2 over Kemba because what he brings on the defensive side of the ball, what he brings on the rebounding, like he's just such a great fucking athlete, dude. He can really guard 1 through 4, like truly.
Yeah, he's not the number 2 option, but he is the second best player on that team.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's had some bad shooting nights, but he keeps shooting. He doesn't ever look like he's losing his confidence. Like I really
that's a big deal.
I'm big on. I'm all in on Jaylen Brown too. Not as like a superstar, but as like a fringe all-star. Good, you can win a championship with him being your second best player, and he's going to be a great locker room guy. So they cleaned that series up. I think Toronto just probably runs it back next year. They're going to have to do they're going to lose a couple of contracts. They got to see if they're going to keep Van Fleet.
Van Fleet's a big one. Yeah.
A few things, but I think they'll be in the mix next year as a top 4 or 5 seed in the East for sure. You look at the Miami-Milwaukee series, man, like, what do you do here if you're Giannis? I'm not surprised by this. You and Justin, I know, were surprised. And I think you, after probably game 2, were like, oh, shit. Like, because I just saw so much more heart, so much more dog in the Heat, and they just never looked like they were intimidated by the Bucks at any point in time. And everyone on the Bucks was just looking at Giannis like, hey, dude, when are you gonna bail us out? But it's not the regular season. It doesn't go like that. And Spo is – coach fucking circles around Bud, which is not surprising.
Dude, yeah, Bud's freaking horrendous, dude. I still think I'm an OKC. There's rumors. Have you heard the rumors about Giannis changing his name?
No.
Giannis onto Toronto.
Okay.
Good one, right? Because he's going to go to Toronto. That would be crazy, dude. That would be immediate favorites. But
oh my God, you would have Toronto jerseys. You'd be just
dude, I would be
like.
I'd move to Canada.
You just have Nick Nurse fatheads all over your house. That'd be your new home decor.
Can you imagine what Giannis would average 50 points a game if he had Nick Nurse? 50 points and 25 rebounds.
I feel like that team wouldn't win a championship. He needs a second player that's better. Don't shake your head at me. With Kyle Lowry as the second best. No, with somebody that's he needs this number 2 that is an elite player. Not a Kyle Lowry, not a Chris Middleton.
Being Richard Jefferson.
He needs an AD, a D Wade, a fucking Kyrie, a Clay, a KD. Like he needs somebody like that, dude. He can't. Look at
He
the
needs
teams that
somebody
are
that
winning
can stretch the
championships
floor.
right now. In the last 10 years, who's won a championship besides the Spurs and the Mavs that didn't have, two elite players, right? Like, you can't just do it with – there's too much talent in the league now because there's more talent in the league now than there was 6 years ago when the Spurs won or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. Giannis needs to never, ever start an offensive possession that isn't a fast break outside of 15 feet. He's doing too much, and this is Coach Bud. They're doing too much of starting the possession by having Giannis dribbling at the top of the key. And, like, I get that he has the ability to run downhill, but whenever you do that, you take the pressure off the defense until he starts, and then they can just, quote unquote, build the wall. You can't build a wall against a guy that catches the ball at 15 feet or at the high post. You can't build a wall against that, dude. He just spins and dunks. So I agree. He needs to be able to spread the floor. He may need to move to true 5.
Can I throw a trade proposal out there for you?
Yeah.
Jamal Murray, Paul Millsap, eat that contract. Jamal Murray, Paul Millsap, and 3 firsts for Giannis. Do you do it?
Who am I?
If you're Milwaukee,
3 firsts?
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to take because I think Giannis is going to leave. So I think you do it. It's the AD thing, right? Like he's going to leave.
Yeah.
Although it's not as certain that he's going to leave.
Yeah, he's supposed to meet with the front office next week and discuss what changes he wants them to make. So it's either going to be
what Chris Middleton's PED structure will be. Make him a true number 2.
Dude, that guy does not look like a NBA player.
Chris Middleton played fine.
He played fantastic. He averaged 20 points. Fine. Yeah,
I've shit all over Chris Middleton. I have to take it back. He played fine.
Also, he was snubbed hard for the All-NBA team this year. Do you know why?
No.
Westbrook and Ben Simmons both got in over him, but had less votes.
Ben Simmons deserved it. Westbrook did not. He had 2 good months.
Chris Middleton's votes were split between guard and forward. Otherwise, he would have gotten 3rd team.
That
Isn't
sucks,
that crazy?
Dude.
Yeah, dude, that's really
wild.
sucks.
Go back to that trade, though. Do you do that if you're Denver? You have Giannis and Jokic.
Dude, I think both those teams, they know.
Okay.
Just because of the makeup. Like, if Giannis...
I need to find ways to work another star onto Denver without sacrificing either of the others.
Yeah, I don't think they have to, and I don't think they can. It'd be hard. Plus, we're outside of the Golden State Warriors era. We don't necessarily need 3 superstars. And those 2 guys will be superstars. And Jokic,
yes.
Murray maybe not so much, but
Jokic is a superstar.
Yeah, I was going to say Murray not so much, but Jokic will be a player that he doesn't have to score to make everybody else better.
Yeah, he can go 20-21 and be fine.
Yeah.
Which is still fine, but still scoring. But yeah, so in that Milwaukee series, though, I mean, dude, I'm seeing so many things from Miami. Like Jimmy Butler doesn't have to score more than 20 points to be a great player. Like his defense, his leadership, his ability to make shit happen at the end of games, which has always been there, right? Like it happened in Philly, it happened in Chicago, it happened in Minnesota. Like that dude's been clutch before, just not in as big of a role. I think having guys like Iggy on there, that even though he's not playing very much, is big. Jay Crowder, like he was guarding.
Jay Crowder's playing out of his mind.
He was playing guarding Giannis most of the time, and he's hitting open shots. Bam is showing me that he's probably not a superstar, but he's a legit all-star. Like that dude is a significant piece to that puzzle. And I'm watching Tyler Herro just turn into he's 20-year-old, 6'5", skinny white dude, and he looks incredible out there. His confidence is through the roof. He might be the best Caucasian-American player in the league right now. That dude is playing out of his mind. And
we're not counting Jokic.
Yeah, not quite. I was listening to Simmons and Russillo, and he said, Dragic, because they're talking about how tough Dragic was. They're like, that guy had a submachine gun at 9.
Dude, the Heat are who the Clippers were supposed to be. They're the dogs that the Clippers were made out to be.
But the Clippers acted like they were all year, and Miami just kept going, just staying steady, working hard, and not letting their ego get to them or getting ahead of themselves.
That's exactly right. This is the part where I eat crow big time, because from the moment that we started talking about the playoffs, I said Miami's scoring comes too much from the young guys. Dude, I had no idea that Tyler Hero would be so flippin'. He's gonna be Stephen Curry. Like, he's unbelievable, dude.
Dude,
And
the three he pulled in the game last night was just. You got nuts to take that, because if you miss it, it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
That guy's a 17-year veteran right now. Like, he has the mindset of that guy.
Years old.
That's insane, dude. He's like him and Duncan Robinson. If Duncan Robinson can learn how to play defense, they will be Clay and Steph. They're the exact same players.
Yeah, and their shooting is close to that level.
Yeah,
it's by far the closest thing that we have in this league. It's just a unique team, though, right? Because so you have these two great young scorers and 3-point shooters. You got a veteran in Jimmy who's really in his peak. He's a two-way player, more of a mid-range guy, can hit the three. Bam is just this freak. You can call him a 5. He's just a big, but he has touch around the rim. Like, he's actually more skilled than I realized.
Yeah, he does. He won the Taco Bell Skills Championship or Challenge a couple of years ago.
That's crazy. And he moves his feet so well. He has such great anticipation. He has all these intangibles in the paint that you just can't teach. It's just natural. You got guys like Crowder and stuff like that. But then you got Dragic, who is, their second option on some nights and their fifth option on other nights, which is fantastic because he can average 20 points a game on any team.
Yeah.
It's just is it the best 1 through 8 or 9? Is it the best rotation that's left in the playoffs? Because I don't even think it's close.
It's left in the playoffs, yeah.
I don't trust anybody on the Lakers under LeBron and AD.
Man, I don't know. I've liked the Lakers from the beginning, but
their 3 through 8 is not better than Miami's 3 through 8.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I think, now that Toronto's out, I think so.
You just love that Toronto team, man.
Dude, I don't get they're so deep, dude. Norman Powell could have won 6th man of the year.
Norman Powell could start on a lot of teams. I was wondering why he wasn't getting more PT. I digress, though. Let's wrap it up here. Let's talk real quick. Game 1 last night, Miami-Boston. I thought Boston had that game in the bag. I mean, they had that game in the bag, and I think they had to win that. I just don't see them coming back from that. I think it was a deflating loss. It was very, very difficult to watch because I'm rooting for Boston in this. I like Tatum. I'm in on this Boston team. I really like Kemba, too. I like Jalen. I like Brad Stevens. J-Mac's a Boston guy, so I kind of want to see them win. But I like Jimmy, too, so I really don't care who comes out of the East. But I was rooting for him, and just watching this, like, Kemba was just fucking terrible through the first 3 quarters. I'm like, paying this guy $30 million or $40 million. He's supposedly healthy. He's just missing shots. And Tatum was fantastic until the end. He really looked young at the end. There was a lot of bad mistakes, a lot of forcing it. I didn't like the final shot that he got off in regulation, step back 3. I think you can get a better shot. Even if it's a mid-ranger, you just need a bucket. It doesn't matter. Now is not the time to get mad about taking an 18-footer. Get the best shot you can. And I think he settled a lot at the end of that game and had some bad turnovers. He had the foul on Jimmy, which was a tough call. I didn't think that was a foul for that and 1, but I don't think they're going to bounce back from this. So I'll tell you, I would have picked Boston in 7. I'm going to flip that to Miami in 6 based on what I saw out of that game, even though Boston looked better for 45 minutes.
I'll take Boston in 7. And that's all. If there were any other team besides these two teams, I would choose the other two. I would choose the Bucks and the Raptors over these two teams. Here's what we're looking at right now. This is when people tell me that
still think that's the Eastern Conference Finals matchup is the Bucks.
Yeah, right. This is Bucks to Raptors. When people tell me that this is a star-driven league and all you have to do is get superstars, I'm like, look at what we're looking at right now. The 2 most talented teams aren't in the Eastern Conference Finals.
But does the bubble have anything to do with that? Does the bubble have anything to do with that?
No, I think it's all coaching.
And I think Boston is the second best team in the East, talent-wise.
Yeah, I think
Milwaukee's first.
I think it's who I just said, Milwaukee and Toronto.
I think Toronto's third.
I also think Nick Nurse is a better coach than Brad Stevens.
I think it's close.
But I mean, the fact that Milwaukee, dude, they were running freaking pick and rolls against the zone, bro. Like, that's like grade school level coaching. That's horrendous. But anyways, I digress. I'm taking Boston in 7. I think that absolutely a toss-up. Like if you put a gun to my head and said to put money on a series in the playoffs, I would. There's
That's
no
not the
way
one
I
I
would
would
bet
bet
that
on.
Yeah,
Not the one I would bet on. So after last night's game, Heat's odds to win the finals plus 400, Boston plus 550. Boston feels like probably the best value there because Lakers are minus 200. You're not really getting
Lakers
a lot of
are the
value there.
ones that are.
I know the NBA wants to see a Boston and LA finals, right?
Dude, I wonder how the NBA feels right now with their Dude, the ratings are bad, bro. They're like down 40%, and this is some of the best basketball I've ever seen.
That's what's shitty is people are missing good basketball, but we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see how it affects the I don't know how the CBA works exactly, but how it's going to affect the deals with the TV networks and how it's going to affect the play. But it's sad to see that it's down. It's sad that the reason it's down. But I agree. There's just been great hoops on, and I'm loving it every night.
Yeah,
but
me too.
We need to get more of a cadence. That was a lot to wrap up in one episode. So let's get back here. And in the next 4 or 5 days, let's talk about where we're at with these Eastern Conference, Western Conference finals, see how our predictions are looking. Hopefully J-Back will be able to join us next time. Final takeaway for this is I'm surprised that you're taking Boston. I really thought you were going to take Milwaukee or take Miami after they took Milwaukee down.
Yeah, I think that they will win, but I'm just going against you.
Okay, that's what I figured. You just keep doubting Miami, and it's like Jimmy Butler's going to – he's the son of a bitch.
No, I if you wouldn't have said Miami, like whatever team, because it's such a toss-up, whatever team you went with, I was going to go with the opposite just to make it more interesting. Because we both had the Lakers in 6. I'll be damned if I have a boring show where we just agree with each other and suck each other's wiener all day.
We're just going to yell at each other like Skip and Shannon.
We should just change this to Skip and Shannon, or Skip and Stephen A., the original yellers.
All right, man. Well, hopefully we got the full crew in here next time. It was good to talk to you, man. You guys go follow us Sensibly Loud on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Listen to us on the break. Download and subscribe. Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you want to go. Until next time. Later, Josh.
Yeah.
Peace.